When I was talking with Koretzky, he said he wondered if Anita Sarkeesian would have received. Sorry, if Anita Sarkeesian was a male making the same arguments, would she have received as much dislike?
Yeah, probably. Although, yeah, I mean, it may be that, and I don't know. I think that a man that made those videos would have been destroyed. I don't think, and I think for most people, not all, there's a little tiny bit more inhibition about being savage to a woman than a man. So I think it would be just unrestrained savagery if a male had made those videos.
It's interesting you mentioned Ezra Klein's article. I actually read that, not when he wrote it. I wasn't involved in GamerGate until 2015, but I read it and I actually very briefly mentioned it in my book, my first book on GamerGate.
Uh-huh.
And I actually reached out to him to interview him possibly, so he might be a part of this project. We'll see what he says.
That'd be good. I figured he must be a gamer. I'm not sure he said that in the article, but he seemed to know a lot about it.
Yeah, I think he did because I actually listen to his podcast occasionally. I think he actually has talked about playing games before, but I have no idea. I'd have to go back and like I
I
don't
like
care
his
enough to do
podcast.
the research to find out if he's a gamer or not. Like it doesn't really matter.
I know. I know.
Obviously you're a learned person. You've been around for a long time. No offense. That's a compliment. It's you've experienced a lot of life and you've worked in a lot
Yes,
of
I'm an
environments. That's what I mean.
age enhanced woman.
Yes. So you've been in a lot of professional environments and stuff like that. If you were the editor in chief of one of these gaming sites and some of your employees were accused of an ethical violation, and it seemed like there probably might be something there, let's say it was a credible accusation, how would you respond to that as the editor in chief?
Well, I would try to get to the truth of it and do all I could to encourage collegiality and kindness. I'm a strong believer in that, and I wouldn't. I just wouldn't want to work in a place where people were savaging one another and trashing each other. I just don't. It's not conducive to flourishing in any way. So I wouldn't do it. I mean, I wouldn't put up with it.
Obviously, you were at SPJ Airplay, and we talked about this a little bit. You mentioned that you had a lot of respect for Koretzky. I do too. But this event, what do you think this event showed the world?
Did anybody? I mean, Did the world pay attention to it?
Well, that's
I didn't get the
not yet.
sense that it. Oh,
Maybe historians will.
Boy, historians will have a lot to go through. There's so much written about GamerGate, and every once in a while I'll meet somebody and they'll say, "Can you explain it to me?" And then I'll try. I think it's falsely attributed to Einstein that he said, "Well, if you understand a problem, you should be able to explain it in simple terms." I think if you understand GamerGate, you probably can't explain it.
That might be true, but do you want to try?
Well, I have been. I think. I mean, simply by stating what I saw is that it was hundreds of thousands, if not more, gamers who found themselves uh, accused of being misogynist. Not just them, that the games they played, just a relentless stream of abuse coming from the media. And it was mostly false, exaggerated. There were grains of truth, but it was a complicated movement with, as I said, untold numbers of players. And like Occupy Wall Street or Black Lives Matter or any, there was a pathological fringe. And the media, when it came to say Black Lives Matter, it knew the fringe was there, but it chose to pay attention to the center and what was serious in the movement. It was just the opposite with Gamergate. They focused on the fringe, and ignored the middle and ignored the reasonable center.
Well, that's one argument that anti-Gamergate people can make. Couldn't they also argue that this started in part because a guy had a bad breakup with his girlfriend who was a semi, well, who was a public figure, and he wrote a blog post detailing that breakup. In that blog post, he mentions briefly, I believe, I haven't actually read the Zoe post, I have no idea, but he mentions that Nathan Grayson was one of the people that she cheated on him with, and then some people on the internet talked about games journalism and that aspect, but a lot of other people were like talking about the drama, and some people who were talking about the drama went like really bad to try and harass her or wanted to harass her and slut shame her. And like that is like sort of the spark that kicked off the discussion about games journalism in that moment. And later on Gamergate, or if you think Gamergate began in that moment, it started Gamergate then.
Well, that's disputed because I think a lot of GamerGate people didn't really know much about that or weren't interested in it. They were concerned about what was happening with the way games were reviewed, that there was, I don't know, what used to be called payola, or, just a kind of cronyism among game reviewers and developers, and some people were in and out. And so there was a lot of resentment already brewing, and then that was the spark. But I don't think that people were reacting to the salacious sex, although certainly some were, because people do. But probably they thought that, I guess it was a Kotaku that was Grayson. He was writing for Kotaku, and
He
they
wrote
thought that,
for yeah, he wrote for
or calling
Kotaku, though the main one ethical so he wrote for Kotaku, but he also wrote for Rock Paper Shotgun, and one of the main issues with with Mr. Grayson's work was with a Rock Paper Shotgun article, though there was also probably it was an ethical violation, probably you could say, with Kotaku as well, but that was a minor one compared to the Rock Paper Shotgun violation. Sorry, I know way too much about this stuff.
you know too much. But I do remember listening to an interview with the editor of Kotaku. Was it Totilo? I could be. I
Stephen
can't remember.
Totilo. Actually, there were 3 articles, but those were the 2 main ones. The third one might have been before they were officially friends/dating. Um, so there might not have been an ethical violation there if they were just acquaintances. But the other 2 were ethical violations, especially the rock paper shotgun article. Anyway, I'm so sorry. Please, yes,
Well,
Stephen Totilo.
but I do remember that the editor was concerned that if there had been a violation of journalistic ethics, and he decided to if he'd been unclear about the policy, he decided to make it clear. And I do think that's probably one good thing that has happened, is I think the game journalism improved in terms of just being a little more open and less cronyism. And more importantly, as Koretzky pointed out, there's just more sites now, more places to review games, and less opportunities for corruption, fewer opportunities.